Hey guys, Dr. Marsh here with a tutorial on how to organize your speeches for this semester. What I'm using here is an example from one of my students from this past spring semester. I'm going to take you through piece by piece so that you get to see each of the parts of the speech outline and get a better sense of how to organize it for the semester. So this top part here is what you will see an MLA header. This should be or may be familiar to you from your ENC 1101 classes. Essentially what you'll want to include is your name so that I know that it's you, my name, and the course that we're in, which is either Fundamentals of Speech or SPC 1608, and then of course the date. Feel free to organize your date as the Americans do or as they do abroad, however you like. So that's going to be part of your MLA style header. We are using MLA formatting for this course. The next piece is what I call the pre-content. This piece right here. This is actually not something you were going to say when you present your speech, but this helps me see when I go through your outline and get a feel for what's to come. The first thing is going to be your topic. You may be talking about pet adoption, abortion, all kinds of things. You're just going to tell me it could be one word, a short sentence. Please do make sure that all of your sentences have end punctuation. All right, I see that he's missing these here. So the specific purpose, this is a multi-part sentence, and here are the pieces and parts. The first piece is either going to be to inform or to persuade. We're either doing an informative speech or a persuasive speech in this class. So for your narrative, that's actually more of a story that you're telling. It's an informative type speech. So you could also say something like to share with my class an experience that I had that relates to culture, or to share with my class an experience I had when traveling abroad or when moving to the country. So the first piece is, what are you doing? You informing us or you persuading us? The next piece is who. Who are you informing or persuading? So in this case, it's always going to be your class. So your speech class, your classmates, however you want to word that is fine. You can be creative with that. And then this last piece is, well, what are you telling us about? What's the topic? Are you informing us about the basic brain functions and how we use our senses to create the world around us? You could inform your class on the merits of pet adoption, whatever it is that you're speaking about. This last piece of the pre-content is called the central idea. This is where you're developing the thought a little bit more comprehensively. Up here you will include your main points as well. So you'll be referencing your main points as well. And that's it for the pre-content, just those three pieces. Then you're going to move into the introduction. This is the part that you're actually going to deliver when you give your speech. So the introduction has 4 pieces to it. The first thing that you want to do is get your audience's attention. Okay, so there's your attention getter. There are a variety of different ways you can do that. You can get our attention through some compelling statistics. Maybe you're talking about a specific topic where some data would be shocking or of interest to us. You could start off with a cool quote, something that really grabs attention, but something that kind of wakes us up and gets us excited about the rest of the information that you're going to share with us. Once you get our attention, you kind of wake us up, then you're going to want to help us understand why we want to listen to you. So why is this relevant to us? And so in this particular portion, you're going to want to consider who you're talking to. So in this case, it's your class. And you're going to want to think about, how is this topic relevant to these particular people? So you don't want to generalize and say, well, this is relevant to the world because we need to save our planet. You want to be very specific to who you're speaking to. So if you maybe are talking, I'll just keep using the pet adoption example. Well, how can that be relevant to your classmates? Well, maybe they've either considered or know someone who's considering adopting a pet or might want to do that in the future, or maybe they've done it themselves. So that would make this content directly relevant to them. All right, so once you wake us up and then tell us why we should be listening, then you're going to want to tell us why you're the person who's most credible to share this with us. This is where you're going to build your own personal credibility. So why are you the person that we should be listening to about this particular topic. So this is not where you're telling us about all the cool sources that you're going to be sharing with us in the speech. This is where you're telling us how you know what you know. So most of you will want to say something like, well, you know, this is a personal experience that I've had, and I've done a lot of research, I've taken a class, those kinds of things that help us understand how you know what you know. That's where you're going to include this here. All right, so once you do this piece, you're going to move into a speech preview. This is where you're going to tell us what you're going to tell us. You're going to preview the speech. In each of the speeches that you'll have here, there's a requirement for a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 5 main points. You do not get additional points for having 4 or 5 main points, so I encourage you to just stick with 3. 3 main points is usually plenty, it's usually sufficient. But here you're going to tell us, in order, you're going to preview those 3 main points for us. They have to be exactly as they will appear in the main body. This is where you're going to set the stage for your audience and open our minds and help us know what's coming next. So it's important to tell us exactly the way you're going to share it with us in the main body in that same order as well. So if you say, you know, today I'm here to talk to you about, you know, the colors of the rainbow. First I'm going to talk about blue, then I'm going to talk about red, then I'm going to talk about yellow. Then when we get to the main body, those points need to be in that very same order. So now I'm going to talk to you about blue, next I'm going to talk to you about red, finally I'm going to talk to you about yellow. So the importance is, it might feel redundant, but it's very important to have these repetitive measures in place because as we'll talk about more in class, your audience is not paying attention to every single word you're saying every single moment. Our attention can wander in and out over the span of a 3 to 5 minute presentation many times. So the more you repeat things, the more we'll remember when you walk away from the stage. So this is your preview of those 3 main points. And then you'll see something here called a link. This is also called a transition. This is a transition statement. You will find these leading into the main body and also between each of your main points. And this just helps the flow. This helps your audience follow along with what you're saying. So in this transition statement, you're going to say, you know, now that I've set the stage for you, now that I've given you a preview of what we're going to talk about, let's start into the first main point, which is the color blue, for example. And then this first main point is, you know, the color blue is often considered one of serenity and one of trust. And then you'll continue on through the body. So these transition links, we'll talk more about them in class. They're a multi-part sentence. It's not just putting a theretofore and a next and a heretofore. You're actually going to be transitioning, creating a bridge between 2 pieces of information to help your audience across, if that makes sense. So these should be, everything actually in this outline should be in full sentence form with punctuation at the end. We don't ask questions as main points. They must be in statement form, structured as a full grammatically correct sentence, so no one-word points anywhere in your outline. So just keep that in mind as you start to develop your first one. So you've got 3 main points. We'll go with that. So the numeration is going to be Roman numeral for your first level. So each of your main points is going to be Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, as you see here, Roman numeral 3. And you see these links happening between each of your main points. All right? So for the first level, you've got those Roman numerals. For level 2, each of your main points must have 2 to 3 subpoints. Okay, and those will be numerated with capital letters. So letter A, letter B. You can also have a third, which is letter C. So as we scroll through, you'll see each main point with an A and a B and a C, A and a B and a C. It's really important that each of your main points is balanced. So you don't want to have an A here and then have A, B, C, D here. You'll want to have 2 to 3 subpoints for each of your main points. Now you're not required to have a third level for the purposes of this class, but you certainly can to develop each of these points. So third level will be regular number, 1, 2, 3. You'll see 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, you'll want to have as much balance as you can. Oops, sorry about that. Should have turned that notification off. So there you have your main body. Again, in the same order, exactly as you presented it here in your preview as part of your introduction. Okay, so that takes us into the last piece, which is your conclusion. And there are 3 specific things you're going to need to do in the conclusion. The first being your summary statement. This is where you're going to tell us what you told us. So consider your outline in 3 parts. In that introduction, you're going to tell us what you're going to tell us. In the main body, you're going to tell us. And then in your conclusion, you're going to tell us what you told us. Okay, well, this is where you're going to tell us what you told us. Again, it might feel redundant, but you're going to list your main points exactly as they appear, exactly in the same order as they appear in the body of your speech. Okay, so it should look very similar to what you have in the preview. And this is going to help your audience kind of pick up those pieces they may have missed as their attention span wandered in and out. The next piece is an audience response statement. This is where you kind of tell us what you want us to do with this information. For an informative speech, you're just saying something like, you know, I hope this information informs you. Should you, like this, let's go back to the pet adoption example. I hope the information I've shared with you today informs your decision making should you decide to bring a new pet into your home, into your family. So this is kind of what do you want me to do with this for your audience. The very last thing you're going to do is you're going to wow us. You're going to leave us with a wow statement. This can be a compelling statistic, again, much like what you would start us off with, or a compelling quote, something that kind of ties it up for us and keeps us thinking on your topic as you walk away. All right, so you want to get creative with this. Again, it's got to be relevant to the topic you're speaking on, but something that you want to leave us with impact. Okay, so those are all the pieces and parts of your speech outline for the purposes of this course. And also here you'll see a final piece, a works cited. Anytime you're using other sources, which you will starting with your informative speeches, you will need to cite them and have a corresponding listing in the works cited portion. And we'll talk more comprehensively about this in class. The works cited will become very important as it is required for the informative and persuasive speeches, but also if you do choose to use sources in your narrative speech. So, and again, we'll talk more about that in class. But hopefully this gives you a good overview of what the speech outline should look like, how you should format it, keeping in mind that everything should be left justified. Here you see everything is lined up nice and tidy. You only have numeration in the main body for your main points, and you can see that within each point, everything is lined up and aligned nice and tidy to the left here. The font needs to be the same throughout, so you won't want to have, you know, Arial 10 on the front and Times New Roman 12 on the second page. I'll be looking for a consistent font, starting off with the header all the way through the works cited piece. That needs to all be consistent. The works cited, when we get to this needs to be clean and tidy. You'll want to remove any formatting that might come across if you cut and paste from an online automatic citation generation tool. And we'll talk more about what the works cited looks like in class as well, but it will need to be ordered in alpha order, as you see here, with a hanging indent. Okay, so that pretty much covers an overview. Please be familiar with this as you walk into our next class meeting, because we're going to be doing a fun activity with this information, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.